Risk taking has always been something that I've been on the borderline of. It's not something that I've found very easy to do, but it is something that I've done nonetheless. I personally think risk taking is something that everyone should do. Nothing successful or worth having comes without taking risks. The only difference between who takes certain risks is the level of risk that you're willing to take and what sort of backup plan you have. When you look at certain success stories, you'll see people have a huge risk that they take and they don't have a backup plan, all right? They put everything on the table. And people often wonder, well, these people are crazy. Like, why would they put all of this on the table and just risk everything without a guarantee of anything coming back in return? And I personally think that the simple answer behind that is because they are ready to fail happy. It sounds weird saying that in the same sentence, but when you set yourself a goal that is so big and you risk everything and you put everything on the table for it and you don't have a backup plan, it's either because you didn't think about it and you just went for it, which is something I'll talk about in another video, or you did it knowing full well you're happy to fail this project because this means more to you than that failure ever will. And if you do fail, you'll fail happy, which means you're not gonna fail thinking that was the biggest waste of my time, this is the worst decision I've ever made, I regret everything, but you will fail knowing I put everything into that goal or into that dream, I risked it all, and I'm okay with that if I didn't get it. Because it means you get to fail and you get to go through all of these problems and these experiences and this risk. You get to go through that and take ownership and be responsible for your own destiny. And I know how corny that sounds to some people, but if you're taking the risks and you're failing, you're doing it on your terms. No one's failing you. No one's making you do this. You are. And I think a lot of people are okay with that. Risk taking is super important. And I think I am guilty of not always taking the biggest risks, but that's also because that leads me into talking about the other person who does take risks, but they always have a backup plan, or they do take minimal risk because they have a secondary plan. And I think that both risk-taking sort of personas or risk-taking sort of agendas are the same and are okay to do, because it just depends on you as an individual and what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're willing to risk. Some people do love a backup plan, and I am deeply respectful of people who have a risk that they've taken and then they have a fail-safe or they have a plan B. And I just feel like I've never been the type of person to do that, because I feel like growing up in a household where we weren't successful and we didn't have much going for it, whenever I took a risk, it was sort of like my only option. I didn't really have a chance to pick and choose. I didn't get a chance to, go through the motions and think, all right, well, I don't feel comfortable with this one, so I'm gonna go with this one. It's not like I had that choice growing up. So for me, it was every time there was a decision or every time there was something that needed to be done, I just did it, because I knew that there was nothing else out there for me. And as you grow up, you do obviously develop this hard-hitting, like, this is everything to me. So sometimes there are things where I do have a choice, but I'm willing to just risk it anyway. And I think for me personally, that works. I love having a plan B and love having that safety net, but I feel like I am the type of person that works under pressure a lot better than I would ever work if I'd been given like 10 weeks. And that's something that's been happening all throughout high school, because when I was in high school, I always left my assignments to literally the night before. The worst idea you can ever do growing up in high school and having high school be the most ultimate thing that you need to pass. But I would smash it and kill it in that one night. And it meant, completely putting my life on the line by drinking heaps of energy drinks and barely sleeping and barely eating. And I'm sure a lot of you get that. I was able to do so much more in that one day than the 10 weeks that I got given. Some people are a lot better with the time that they're given. I personally just work a lot better under pressure. If I'm forced and backed into a corner, I hate the feeling of losing in that corner, and I would rather die than to let myself fail in that corner. So when I get pushed back and I get forced into this corner, I come out, the beast comes out, and I start doing stuff and I start making things happen. And it's definitely a skill that I need to learn to bring back a little bit, because when you get given certain amounts of time, it's for a reason. So when it comes to this sort of stuff, I definitely say that risk-taking is super important for the future and for things that you want to pursue. But it all comes down to the type of person you are. And I think over this last year, being 24, leading up to 25, I've realized that there are certain things that I can take risks on and certain things that I do need to be mindful of when making a decision. But at the same time, I work better when I don't have anything or a safety net or a plan B. So any risks that I hopefully take in the next 25 years will be more smart, but also will still have the level of intensity that I've always had growing up.